Coming up next on Jersey Matters, new airlines are coming into Newark Airport. Does that mean the prices are coming down? We'll talk to an industry expert. And we'll also talk to a doctor from Freehold, New Jersey, who wrote a book on breast cancer and changed the way they do medicine in China. Those stories and a whole lot more because Jersey Matters. Welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. Newark Airport, on average, charges some of the highest fares in the country. One reason for that? A lack of competition. But that's about to change. Here to talk about that is Seth Kaplan, who is managing partner and editor of Airline Weekly. Thanks a lot. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so first of all, why did Newark charge the highest fares in the country, or some of the highest fares?
Well, it's a combination of factors. I mean, some of it's just kind of technical. You know, the average length of a flight there is rather long. So obviously, when you have flights to places like Los Angeles, a lot of those kinds of flights, which Newark has, the average fares are going to tend to be higher than at airports that just have shorter flights. But certainly, some of it does come down to competition. I mean, you have United there with the vast majority of the flights. So at an airport where you have lots of different airlines competing, sometimes the average fares tend to be lower. At Newark, if you want to fly nonstop to a lot of cities at least, up until now, you've generally had just one choice.
And that's going to change now. There's new airlines coming in.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's in the end, it's supply and demand economics. It's competition, and generally, in any business, when you have more competitors, the price of whatever it is tends to come down. So you have a few new airlines, not just any of the airlines, by the way, Larry. I mean, we're talking about what are called ultra low-cost airlines. Spirit, some people are familiar with if they've flown from, Philly, for example, or from LaGuardia. The Allegiant, another one of those ultra low-cost airlines, as well as one from Iceland called WOW Air. So these are, again, not just any airlines, not just any new competition, but airlines that don't provide a lot of frills, but they do provide low fares for people looking for those.
But they're not going to get a lot of slots, right? I mean, getting a minimal amount compared to United that dominates Newark, will that bring down the fares?
It's not going to dramatically change the landscape, but sometimes just a little bit of competition can change things.
But this is a crack in the dam. This is the first. Will there be more flights coming? Is this an opportunity for more cheaper flights and more airlines to come into Newark?
It could be. I mean, look, United is always going to be the dominant airline at Newark. And that's not necessarily a bad thing in the sense that Newark, as a hub, is obviously critical to the economy of the surrounding areas. But no question, it is a more diverse airport than it once was. Southwest that now has a sizable presence at Newark. It wasn't there at all up until several years ago.
The CEO of United had to step down after a federal investigation found that he had a cozy relationship with the Port Authority over the Newark Airport, allowing a special flight that he would lose money on to Columbia, South Carolina. The papers dubbed it the chairman's flight. Why would you do that unless you're getting something in return? And did they get this dominance? Did they keep out other airlines because of this?
I think it's always hard to trace exactly, the quid pro quo. What did this cause? But you're right. You wouldn't. Absolutely. You wouldn't do something like that. If the allegations are true, unless you were getting something from it. And that certainly was the appearance. And so that wasn't the beginning of people asking questions. I mean, for a long time, people have complained about the fares at Newark. Other airlines have complained about access to Newark, because the thing about Newark that's different from most other airports in the country. I mean, look, Larry, if an airline wants to add, flights at Atlantic City or Trenton or something like that, hey, come on in. Those airports are thrilled to have it. But at a few airports in the country, LaGuardia is another, for example, there's just not enough capacity to accommodate all of the flights that that the airlines want to add there. And so you have what are called slots. And that basically means it's not enough to just have a gate, which is really all you need at most airports. You also have to have the right to operate a flight at certain times. And what other airlines were complaining is that United, has the vast majority of slots. And again, everybody understands they're the hub airline there. Of course, they're going to be the biggest. But the allegation was that they weren't even using all of those slots. They were what's called squatting on the slots.
And they were doing that to keep, I got it, okay.
And so all of those longtime concerns, and then the Port Authority scandal sort of cumulatively put the pressure to say, hey, let's open up the airport to some new competition.
And that was done because of an antitrust suit?
Yeah, and exactly. So ultimately, that's what you had, was the airport was open in this regard, and some of the slots were given to some of these new entrants.
You mentioned two other airports, Trenton and Atlantic City. Let's talk about them. How's the Trenton Airport doing? Is there any new flights, new airlines coming there?
Yeah, actually, Allegiant. I mentioned it just before when we were talking about Newark. Allegiant, one of those ultra low cost carriers where all you're getting when you buy a ticket is basically safe travel, and you pay extra for absolutely everything else, is coming to Trenton. First time in a while now Trenton has had more than just the service from that one airline, Frontier. Atlantic City, the story for the airport, in some regards better than for the local economy from some of obviously the headlines everybody's aware of. It's just Spirit there, but they're rather large at Atlantic City, and I actually just took a look before the show. They're bigger now than they were a year ago, and that too, Larry, provides competition. I mean, it might not seem like.
That's what I was going to ask you. To talk about how this relates to a consumer. If I'm looking for a flight, is it worth my while to first check out Atlantic City and Trenton?
Absolutely, and it's worth. And if you're checking on one of those, on a site that checks lots of, whether it's Expedia or Kayak or something, always check that box that says "Search other airports," because a lot of people just wouldn't even think to search those places. Again, these are options in the marketplace, which, in a small way at least, they too provide put some downward pressure on fares at Newark. Again, I don't mean to overstate the case. Obviously, a few new flights from Allegiant and Trenton aren't going to change the world in Newark, but they're there.
But who knows where it's going to go? I thank you so much for coming
in.
Seth Kaplan is the managing partner and editor of Airline Weekly. When we come back, concerns still over lead in the paint in New Jersey. We'll talk about that when Jersey Matters continues.